Okay, Peter Nelson from Moncton, New Brunswick, our field office, RM. So the story I shared earlier today was a story that happened to me, I think it was 1995 when I was in university. At that time I was working as a flight attendant as a summer job, and so as a flight attendant I'm often traveling a lot, away from home a lot. And in the story this morning I said I was married, but actually I was engaged at the time. My wife had a son, so the three of us were downtown Halifax attending the Shark Derby. It's a one-day fishery, having a lot of fun together after I'd been away for a few days. And I got a phone call, or a page actually, asking me to call the airport, which I did, and had this question asked of me. No one else wanted to do this flight. It was a medical evacuation from St. John's, Newfoundland, and asked me if I'd take it right away, which meant I had to leave. So my wife wasn't very happy, but I felt I had to take it. I really wanted to take it. And so we left and went to the airport, flew to St. John's, Newfoundland. And while we were there, we prepped the airplane, we took seats out, we got ready for this boy to come on board. And what it was is a young boy from Gander, Newfoundland, had liver failure. They expected him to pass away within the next week. So they're sending him to London, Ontario, where the best child organ transplant facility was in the country. So we got him on board, and then his parents came on board. Normally we don't accept parents on medical evacuations because there's always a risk of complications during the flight, and if something happened, the parents could lose control of themselves, become hysterical, whatever. It's not a good situation on an aircraft. So my job was to take care of the parents in the back of the airplane, make sure they were comfortable, make sure that they stayed back there no matter what happened during the flight. And so during the flight we take off, and as we left the ground, we started to climb. We had priority clearance in the air, which meant that we could climb really fast, really high, and just go in a straight line from St. John's to London. So when they did that, the respiratory therapist forgot to adjust for the inclination of the airplane. They didn't tell the pilots you can't climb so fast, and the boy almost suffocated on takeoff. We got it under control. They got under control. I saved the parents. We kept them calm during the whole situation. Uneventful flight after that. Had a great time visiting with the parents and keeping them occupied. When we landed in London, it was just like in the movies. We hit the runway. The plane didn't slow down. We just kept going really fast until we came to the point where we came off the runway, went straight to a gate, exterior gate, and when we got there, the police cars were waiting, the ambulance was waiting, taxi for the parents, all the lights were on. They circled the airplane, and we opened the door and we took the teenage boy down, put him in the ambulance. I took the parents to the taxi and spoke with them until the police officer said, all right, we're going, and then they all took off, flying down the highway. And we got back on the plane. The medical staff all went to the back of the plane to sleep, and this is in the middle of the night. So the pilots and I went to the flight deck, and I was still wired and excited. This is really cool. And got to help. So we got back to St. John's. Life went back to normal, and went back to school at the end of summer. Didn't hear anything about what had happened. So the next summer, it was a recurring job I had every year. I came back to worked a couple of months, and then one day I came to check my mailbox in the crew room at the airport before my duty started, and in there was this package, and I opened up the package, and there was a t-shirt and a letter from the Minister of Health from Newfoundland, and in that letter he gave me the whole story, what had happened, that the boy was a star athlete before his liver failed, and that after we dropped him off in London 2 days later, it sounds kind of tragic, but good for him was there was a car accident in Toronto, and one of the victims of that car accident had a matching liver for this boy, and he got the transplant. He lived. He was back in school in September, back on the volleyball team, star athlete, excelling in academics, and the whole story was happily ever after at that point. So to me, it was something I kept very personal. I put it in my journal, and something that I'll never forget. But it's a story where I had a chance to make a difference, took the opportunity where others had turned it down, and I think that I certainly gained the most from that situation and being a part of that team.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the question that I will be asking participants after they hear this story. because they're going to have a chance to reflect and say what mattered most to Peter. Why did this matter so much? And you've answered a little bit of it there, but let's go to the deepest level possible. Why did that whole? So, for instance, what mattered most to you in that story?
I think what mattered most was somebody needed help. I was in a position to give that help, so despite what else was going on, I wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And just to preface the first part of the story is when I took the phone call, they couldn't tell me over the phone what the situation was. They just said, a teenage boy in Newfoundland needs to be taken to London, Ontario. It's life or death. Can you do it?
Yeah.
And I just said yes. And then they briefed me on the flight flying to Newfoundland what we were doing.
Yeah. So after you got the package, the T-shirt from the Ministry of Health, what was the impact on you of not just that adventure, but then when that loop was closed and you got the T-shirt? What was the impact on you?
Walking on cloud nine. I was about to take a flight to go in the sky, but you just felt like I was flying higher than the airplane. It's just that feeling, one, of satisfaction.
Yeah.
That I was able to be part of that team in a very small way. But I think there's just that feeling that kind of overpowers all other feelings, that you just feel good.
Yeah.
Feel good about everything.
Yeah.
And it's just something that you can't replace, and you have to actually do something for somebody else to get that kind of feeling.
Yeah, yeah. So why does doing something for somebody else matter so much to Peter? Because that can matter to different people in different ways.
Right.
If there's something inside of you around contribution or whatever it is, why did that matter so much to you? Maybe you've answered it already.
Well, that could be. It could take me a long time to answer. I think for me, I feel an obligation and a duty to help other people,
Yeah.
and I feel that however you want your belief system is, I believe that there's a higher power, and I believe in God, and I think that's our duty and responsibility to help other people when we can. I think that when we do that, it enriches our own lives, and that's how we learn and grow.
Yeah.
By reaching out and putting others first.
So you were actually fulfilling your belief system, your value system, and also your calling to contribute to the world in a bigger way.
Right.
In that moment. That's really
right.
cool. Thank you so much for telling the story.
You're welcome.
Yeah.